Good morning to all. Happy Monday morning it is. I'm not wearing a hat, but I am wearing one of my favorite shirts that reads, "One nation under God," crossed with the flag, and the bottom it reads, "Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord." All right, so we're in the right nation. We have a great book here to start, and it's Here's George. First of all, welcome to Story Time with Jonny Rodriguez, where people of all ages can be read to, whether you're an infant, a year-old, a few years old, up in your 20s, 30s, 100s. I'm reading to everybody, anybody and everybody that would like the opportunity to be read to. That's who I'm reading to. I have a desire, a burning desire, to read to people that need reading too. So please join me. Story time with Jonny Rodriguez. Here's George visits the library. Hopefully we could finish without any interruptions of the computer system. This is George. He was a good little monkey and I was very curious. Today George and his friend with the man with the yellow hat went to the public library. There's George and the man with the yellow hat walking into the library. There's also another sign that says story time, 11 a.m. All right, story time. George had never been to the library before. He had never seen so many books before either. Everywhere he looked, people were reading. Some people were quietly to themselves, but in the children's room, the librarian was reading out loud. That's because she's doing what I'm doing, reading to everybody. It was story hour. Bye, George, says the man with the yellow hat. George was curious. George loved stories. He sat down with a group of children to listen. The librarian was reading a book about a bunny. George liked bunnies. Behind the librarian was a book about dinosaurs. George liked dinosaurs even more. He hoped she would read that book next. The next book the librarian read was about a train. Wow, trains are good books. But George tried to sit quietly and wait for the dinosaur book to be read. But sometimes it's just hard for the little monkey to be patient. Look, here's George. Here he is at the back, trying to be quiet, trying to be patient. Okay, only so much time that George could be quiet. When the librarian started a story about jungle animals, George could not wait any longer. He had to see the dinosaur book. He tiptoed closer. "Look, a monkey," shouted a girl. The librarian put her finger by her lip. "But we must be quiet so everybody can hear," she said nicely. "But there's a monkey," said a boy. The librarian nodded. Mm-hmm. She agreed. She didn't totally agree. I don't think she saw. When she finished reading the jungle books, the librarian reached for the dinosaur book. But where did it go? And where was George? See, you see the back part of George leaving the room. And here the boys and girls were telling her about George. All right. George was all ready to take the dinosaur book home and read it when his friend to read it with his friend when another book caught his eye. Got it? Okay, with his friend. This book was about trucks. George wanted to take it home too. And there was a book about elephants. George loved elephants. He climbed to his pile. He added this to his pile. Now he's having a collection of books he wants to read. George found so many books, he soon had more than he could carry. He leaned against his shelf to rest. The shelf went squeak. When the shelf, shh, said the man, squeak. The shelf went again and it moved. Why, it wasn't really a shelf after all. George had found a special cart for carrying books. What luck! Now George could carry all the books he wanted. He rode the cart between the shelves and stacked the books up. About boats, kites, baking cakes. He climbed higher to reach books about trains and planes. Oh, look at George. Leaning against the crate first. cart first, and then climbing onto the cart to climb up to the highest shelf to get some books. George, you need to be careful, buddy. Here's George. Here we go. At last, George had all the books he could handle. He couldn't wait to get home to start reading. And right in front of him was a ramp leading to the door. George was curious. Could he row the cart all the way home? Don't think so. Down the ramp went George. The car rode faster and faster. Stop! The librarian volunteer shouted. Come back here with my cart. But George was too excited to listen. The car was picking up speed and George was having fun. Yay! Fun! Like a little roller coaster. Yay! Fun, fun, fun in the sun. Until crash! George and the car ran back into a shelf of encyclopedias. Books flew up in the air, and so did George. He landed in a big pile right between O and P. Oh my goodness, look at that, Ocean Pacific. There he is. Big crash. There's a volunteer running to see what he could do to help out. Oh no, moaned the volunteer when he saw the mess George had made. How am I going to put all these books away? I'd like to borrow this one, said a boy from the store hour. I'll take this one, said a girl. With help from George and the children, the books were stored in no time at all. Soon, there was just a small pile of George's favorite books left on the shelf, on this cart. All right, everybody pitched in and helped out. Everyone was helping out. See that? Here we go. Would you like to take those books home with you? The volunteer asked George. Then he took George to a special desk and helped him get his very own library card. George was holding his brand new card when his friend arrived with a stack of books of his own. There you are, George, he said. I see you're all ready to check out. George and his friend gave the books to the librarian. She smiled when she saw George's pile. I was wondering where this dinosaur book went, she smiled. It's one of my favorites too, George. The librarian stamped the books and handed them back to George. Same. She stamps the books, so which they know when they need to bring them back. But the library, you get to borrow books. They usually give you 1 or 2 weeks. Okay, look at all the people waiting for George. Bye, George. Thanks for your help, George. Thank you, George. With his books under one arm, George waved goodbye to his volunteer, the librarian, and the children from the story hour. Come see us again, George, the librarian said, waving back. Enjoy your books. Yes, I will. I will indeed. Dinosaurs. And he did. He did enjoy it. In fact, here's the man with the yellow hat reading the dinosaur book. The end for this section. And tomorrow, Tuesday, we'll get together again and read probably the final book of this series. Okay? I hope you had a good time. I hope you enjoyed. Have a great week. A great Monday morning. It should be a beautiful morning. We had some clouds, a little bit of rain in our area. Other areas got a lot of rain, but our area got just a little bit. We need all rain, little or a lot. We need it all. So thank you for joining me with Johnny Story Time with Jonny Rodriguez. And please remember to tell your friends, neighbors, and relatives about Story Time with Jonny Rodriguez. I'm here to read to children and adults of all ages. Thank you very much. May the Lord bless you and keep you, and be strong and be safe. Story Time with Jonny Rodriguez.